Okay, good morning. Friday morning on Eyes of the Universe with Michael McCullough. We're on the Bridge of Light Radio Network. And for those of you who are new to my channel here, watching me on Periscope and listen on the radio, you can call in 188 395 7257 if you have any comments or questions. You can ask. It'll be live. We'll discuss and chit chat a bit about what's going on. But today I'm looking at, we're always talking about technology development, and one of our favorite pastimes is video games. So video games and technology development, how that's kind of changed over the years, what that means for us today, and even about education. And I was going to title it about education, but this is it's all encompassing. And just about me, I've been playing video games since I was a little kid. When someone gave us an Atari, it wasn't even an Atari, it was a Telegames. It was a generic brand of Atari, and they gave it to me and my brothers, and we played that thing to death. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Pitfall, Yard's Revenge, some of those out there who know those games. And we just enjoyed them. And for me, video games was always an outlet. It was just fun. Now, we played outside half the time, or actually majority of the time. We just came inside to play games once in a while because it was Atari graphics were just a bunch of colored squares and such. But still, it spurred our imagination, and it gave us a lot of fun things to do, to play with each other. But at the time, I didn't like computers. Now, I was always a science and tech person, but computers to me were boring. And especially at that era where you had the Commodore PET, you had these older computers with monochrome screens, the green color screens. That's all they had. And then they had tape cassettes. That was the data came on a tape cassette. And the thing took forever to load. And by the time you finished loading it, I was in school with elementary school, then you get some kind of educational game. And I'm thinking, my goodness, this thing is boring. I can't wait to get home to play Atari. And the kid told me, man, don't you know video games are computers also? I said, no way. Video games aren't computers. That's not right. Video games are fun. Computers are boring. And he said, no. And he's a real smart kid. And he said, no, man, it's true. They're also computers. And I looked it up. I was like, wow, I guess he's right. There are computer boards and all sorts of stuff inside it. It's the same thing. But why is it that the video games are so much faster and it moves so fast? Pac-Man moves around the screen real fast, but these Commodore PETs, this Commodore that we had at school moves so slow. And then I started seeing Apple and Commodore 64 came in color, and we saw disk drives and different things like that. But it seems very slow compared to games. And then the same kid told me how you program a game, and it's on a computer. And I'm thinking, wow, this is like third or fourth grade. I'm thinking, man, this guy, how do you do that? He brought it in a book, and we started messing around with programming. And at an early age, I saw it really before it was popular amongst kids or anything. We were messing around with it, and even then, I thought it was boring. But I did as a prank. We cracked a computer program. It was easy. I mean, it's basic. You just keep pressing keys until the program breaks, and then you figure out how the lines of code. We knew just a few little words to put in to get the lines of code to show up. So I changed the code. It was a game, as it was a math game or something, reading game or something. I forgot. It asked the kid's name. What's your name? You type the name in. So you type in Cindy, your girl's name is Cindy, whatever. Type the name. And says, what a nice name you have. Would you like to play speaking math or something, whatever it was, the game? Well, we changed it. And I wrote in, that's a stupid name. And I went back to my seat. And I saw a little girl, her name was Cindy. She got up, and I saw her typing her name in and said, what's your name? She typed in Cindy, and she pressed enter. That's a stupid name you have. And so the girl freaked out. She said, raised her hand. They asked the teacher for help. And the teacher knew I did it. So I got in trouble for that. One of the few times I wasn't a trouble student, but I was one of the few times I did trouble. All of a sudden, computers were fun. That was just, I just got the biggest kicks out of doing that. And so me and this other kid, we just looked up how to make games, and eventually I did make a little Space Invaders game in high school. But I was amazed that, a lot of kids did not find interest as well as myself in computers. And as computers got more popular, things got easy to use. Now everybody uses, Facebooks and Twitters. Everything has a form of computer. It's all a form of computer, all the way to your Nintendos and your PlayStations, Xbox. All that came advanced on up to what we have now. And so, where are the game developers? A lot of kids play games, but how many of them make games? How many develop games? And how much technology has come from games? That's another question here. And so, as we start looking at these things, and always about education also at these times is how can you use this to propel yourself into the future? Because games, as a lot of people will see as a time waster, and it can be if you're not doing anything with it, if you're not productive at all and just spend all your times on games, unless you're a professional game player or developer, tester, game tester. Those are actual occupations out now. So the game industry has changed. It's advanced to where it's actual profession. These are people who get paid to play video games, whether you know it or not. Some of you might know this already, but there are people that actually get paid to play games, from testing them to competing, professional competitors. It's gotten that popular. But I'm just sharing this out there just to let people know what is out there. If you see your kid playing games all the time, they've got to get some way to connect back to reality. And for games, for me, it was an escape for reality. And I think that's the way for it is a lot of people. It's just an escape. It's a fun thing to do, but then also it can be a way to just leave the environment, just have your mind somewhere else occupied. The same as watching TV. The same as talking on the phone or something. It's escape from what's going on at the current. You can just delve into something else, whether it's a conversation or whether it's something else that you're just watching. Just listen to your music while your eyes closed. Sometimes we just need to escape. But in that, if you're doing it 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, then that becomes an issue. What are you doing with it now? What are you doing? What are you accomplishing? And so, for me, that was a problem. It was a problem playing games because I used it as an escape. Not to get aggressive. I wasn't aggressive with people, but I had to escape. I had to do something, and I couldn't stand watching TV. That's just me. Didn't like the shows that's on there. Not that I'm not a non-TV watcher type of person. No, I just didn't like what's on TV. Just bored with it. I like games. And after a while, I wasn't even playing the game. I just was on there just to be escaping. So I even stopped being good at it. I was just on there just to get away. But as I started thinking, I said, I got to get back into development. I got to integrate this into what I'm doing, technology development. So how can we work together? Me, you, audience. How can we do this? That's something that's out there, that's right now, that's here. And so there have been educational games in the past. Now, to me, and to a lot of actual gamers out there, educational games have tended to be very boring. Sorry, they've just been boring. You have things where you have a little guy moving around, they ask you a math question, you solve the problem, and then you can go on, as opposed to playing something like Team Fortress, or you're playing, I'm just getting a slip of my mind here, but any of the high-speed action games, how can you compete with that? How can you compete with a game with just constant, you're jumping around, you're interacting with your friends, shooting them, to a game where it's going to ask you a math question before you can shoot your bullet? Can't compete. Sorry. Not in my mind. But there have been games that have been successful. And now, granted, I'm getting older. Some of the games I remember, but they were very popular at that time. Oregon Trail, Where in the World, it was Carmen San Diego. some of the games like that. So we're going to go on a quick commercial break. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back again on Eyes of the Universe with Michael McCullough, and this is the Bridge of Light Radio Network. And those of you who are online can call in at 1-888-395-7257. It's 1-888-395-7257. So we are talking about video games and technology development, and I was mentioning on educational games because we should always think about things in the future. How do we build on things as innovators? I'm always talking about innovators. How can we build on things and making things better for the world? You know, some people, educational games have been out there. They've been out there for a long time. There were some really popular ones that were just as popular. Some of the standard games that are out there for entertainment. And I mentioned games like Oregon Trail and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. There was one game I liked was called Number Munchers. These are very old games that you can probably download for free now. Maybe. I don't remember. I haven't looked it up. Very old games. But at the time they came out, they were so entertaining that you weren't even... You knew you were learning, but it wasn't so obvious. Like, it didn't stop the action to say, solve this math problem, solve this. It was all integrated and made it fun. And so I haven't played a lot of straight educational games recently. I now have my kids, so I've been looking at different games for them. And what's out there now, a lot of kids are playing Minecraft. There's another game system called Roblox. But the common element is the creative element to it. And that's what's become popular, is allowing kids the freedom or the outlet to create. And I think that's where computers have gone, why they become so popular amongst just everyday people, is because it gave them an outlet to create, express their creativity. Before, computers were so, archaic, not the word, but technical. You had to be a programmer to actually do something with it. And so only the computer nerds like computers. But the interfaces have become easier. And so now people don't have to concentrate so much on the computer itself. They can just use more of the creativity. And the interface is becoming less of an issue. And then you have to really learn and read the book on how to use it. A lot of the professional programs are still like that, and they have to be to a certain extent. But the user-friendly software, it's less about the interface, and now I can just directly, intuitively start using it and start creating and express myself. And I think that's where Minecraft became more popular, because there's not much of a theme to it. You're not going on a mission to save the princess to save the world. It's just some blocks. You might have a little thing to it, but you might have a little mission or something like that if somebody put that in there. But you're just making castles, making little houses, and it's popular, very popular. People are loving it because I think the common element is creativity. People love to still be creative, even when the educational system is almost anti-creative in the way they're teaching. And maybe that's, people have always been creative, but because there is very little creative outlet in schools, such as art, music, different things like that, you're strictly based on English and math. Take a test. We'll call it science, but really it's just factual memorization that we call science. History, take the test. Take a test. So where's the creativity at that? And we talked about this quite a bit on our show, but the games that are out there that are on the educational side have been creative, where the kids are making their own environments, they make their own universe on the game, and other kids can join in and play it. I think Roblox is another one I mentioned. That's like that, where it's very easy to set up something to play. And so the new era of education is people making their own systems or game systems. A friend of mine told me his daughter got real sick. She wasn't able to attend school for a long period of time due to her illness. But most of the time she had was trying to catch up on work, which she wasn't really able to during the height of her illness, just because of the pain and such. But as most of us have an outlet, the games were an outlet for her to escape. So he told me she started playing Roblox, and there was a game on there where you can journey through the human body and do different missions. But I guess the human body was like a somewhere we could explore and travel through it. And I don't know if it was interactive with other users, but anyway, you in that playing that game, she actually learned all the information from her anatomy class, which she had. She had an anatomy class in school, and she was, even though she didn't get to study the book, because she played the game so much, she got an A on the exam. Now, it wasn't a straight anatomy game. It was a game that was just about the human body, but she was still learning about different parts of the bones. I think it had bones in there and different. I mean, it got kind of down to the certain details of what's what. I'm not just saying this is the heart and the lungs. This is she's in middle school or high school, so it was a little bit more information. This is your head, then this is your head or hands. It had some more information than that, but because the game went into that depth to play the game, she learned it. And so, as developers out there, educators out there, you want to find things that it's almost as if the kid doesn't even know that they're learning. It's so fun. And when you're creating your programs, keep that in mind, that you don't have to make it so textbook, because that's there's so many other comes so much competition now that. Are you going to find that a popular game? You can force people to play it, of course. It's your classroom, your school. But are they going to really enjoy it? And so, once I'm looking at this for I've been looking at this for our space development project, Mashwamenge, which is a telescope system that's going to be designed to look at the surfaces of stars and exoplanets, planets outside our solar system. And it needs a human interface. It needs an interface where people can use. And we want this to be for the community to be able to develop and to use. And the best thing I thought was a game. Because you have to bridge people. People like space, but it's so far out there to most people, so complicated, that most people don't go into it. It looks like it's only reserved for NASA type people. And to some extent, that's how it is. It is like that. But there's been space games have been around for years and years and years. And so, why can't the game be also the interface to how to use a real observatory system? A system so powerful, it's more powerful than the Hubble. That's what it will be. And so, I want to integrate people with this. So I got to bring them from the games that they're familiar with, and the social media. That's another aspect of computing. I mean, it's not games, but it is similar in that it allows people to express their creativity, express their thoughts, engage, interact with one another. These are basic human needs, and it just, as far as mental, is to interact with one another. And so that's why these things are so popular. So why not integrate that into the sciences, into the technology development? And that's what we're going to do. And so looking for information, feedback, really feedback from people, the users, people who want to share in this. Once again, if you're listening, you can call in at 1-888-395-7257 and give us your thoughts on that. Because as we see it, we want to make science and technology less intimidating for people who may feel intimidated by it, the field, but they have ideas themselves. They have an interest in it, but the current state of where things are, it may make them feel intimidated that they don't know enough, that they don't have enough education to participate. And really, it's not the case. Where you are right now, I'm going to encourage you to always learn, and you're going to learn if you're on this team. But at the same time, no one knows everything. And there are a lot of areas that people don't know that you will know, that you will have such an interest in, that you can participate in. And the way we're doing that is going to be through a video game. We're going to have people on it, exploring planets, real planets, but it's going to be represented in the game. And so while they're exploring the real planets, the real data from the planets real data from the planets, from surface imagery to orbits to even the type of light and maybe the materials that's on there. As we gain that information, we'll put it in the game, and they'll be able to interact with it. So now, as they're playing in the game, they're also learning about the planets. They're also gaining an interest in what's actually out there. So we're crossing that gap with the bridge using video games and then social media. Social media, we want them to share it with their friends. And so all of this is being developed right now. We're very early in the phase of it. We're still looking for artists, programmers, and IT personnel. So if you know of any, you can call the station. Once again, 1-888-395-7257, and ask for Michael McCullough, Exoplanet Technologies. And I'll give you all the information I can on how to join in on this as a developer. And I'm talking everywhere from students to working professionals. And so, looking at this again, we've taken video games from, we've seen video games taken from the basic consoles like the Atari to Nintendo, Segas to the Xbox, PlayStations, and now virtual reality has re-entered the picture. So we've seen virtual reality before, but now when you have the Oculus Rift, we have I think it's the Vive, or I might get some of the names wrong here, but there's a lot of new, Google has the Google Glasses that's coming out that has like a VR type of interface where it's looking at, you can look through them, but you can see computerized information in front of you from the environment around you. So VR has come to the present era, the 2016 era, and it's more it's doable now. And I haven't tried them on. I think Micro Center out here in Houston, Texas, but Micro Center had a display of one of the VR tools that you can get on. You can try VR glasses. VR glasses you can try on and look around, and stuff is pretty amazing on what they can do now with the technology that's available. And the screens, I heard, is your cell phone screens, because now they're HD quality, 4K quality screens on your cell phones. So they're putting that as your VR screens in your glasses. And so you can look around, you can move, and you'll see that interface in the game. So these things are out now. They're out now, really. They're out now. They're constantly improving on them. But how's that going to change the future of video games? What are we going to see? I mean, me and my friends always talked about what it would be like to play and actually be in the game. We already played it. We got pretty good at just playing games. But now, actually being inside of it, that's going to set off it's setting off a whole new wave of things. You know, there's the excitement that we have playing paintball. Now, that's real as far as the real environment. But the adrenaline just going off the roof there is just, when you're out there I play in the woods, but there's fields out there that my nephew has played in. I prefer the woods, but anyways, just the excitement of being out there and just the intensity of people out there trying to shoot you with a paintball. And those little things hurt. Don't let somebody tell you different. Sometimes those things hurt if they hit you on some skin, but you know, for that reason, it's just like it's intense. So if you have that in the video game and you're playing each other, now you're engaging your full self. So games are moving beyond just sitting on the couch with your joystick, getting fat, eating potato chips and drinking pop, you know, and now it's becoming active. You have to move. Now we saw the Wii. That was a revolutionary, and when it came out, I was like, wow, it wasn't VR, but you can actually move the little joystick paddles and have things move on the screen. People started getting almost injuries because they were playing so much. But it got people active again. I think that was one of the best things about the Wii. It got people active again with video games, where there was a time where it was just a couch potato. It's just a step above. I would think it's a step above TV. Because TV, you do nothing. You just sit there and just literally watch, brain dead. But games, there's a little activity in it. That's why I like it. There's more activity into it. You can interact. You can change things. You just have to watch it. That's just me. But that's why I like games. But even that can become repetitive. And so now we've always wanted it. Let's get in the game. Let's see it for real, or see it inside the game as though it was real. Now the next stage may be real. I don't know what's going to come next, but let's get inside and just see it, and then interact with our friends. My friends are still in Chicago. I still play with those guys online. We get together. That's how we interact. But now the VR technology is such that we could be in a same virtual room watching a movie or playing a game together and see each other running around. But I'm in my room, they're in their room in Chicago or California, Detroit, or whatever they're at. But we're all interfacing. So how's that going to change the educational aspect of things? It's classrooms, virtual classrooms. That's what things we were discussing. Sitting there, and you're in a class. They always had online schools, but now I put the VR glasses on, and now you're actually there on location. If they're studying about the class about the rainforest, put the glasses on, and now you're inside the rainforest from your own room. And the classes be advanced beyond just a blackboard or a board and tables and chairs, and now you're in an actual environment that you're studying. Go to space. Go on another planet. These are things that we're going to do from Astromingi. You're going to actually be on the planet through the virtual reality. So real information, but portrayed in virtual reality. Now you'll still be able to see it on your computer screen, but we're going to interface with a lot of the technologies that bring it to you, engaging your senses. And we've talked about that in the previous show about learning. All learning begins with the senses, as Anthony C. Bruins mentions, even with his dog training program. All learning begins with the senses. So when you engage the senses, you're actually enhancing the learning experience. I talked to a sister. She was saying that she wasn't an astronomer. She wasn't into astronomy or anything like that, but she remembered her astronomy classes and all the information about the planets. She was rattling off different things about the planets that she knew, because when she was in middle school, she took a trip and they portrayed all that information, made it so fun and interactive, even though she was not interested in space, because the game or interface that they were using was so fun. She remembered everything about the planets, being a person that's not interested in space. I thought that was pretty impressive, because it engaged her senses. She just didn't read it in the book. She was interacting with the planets and different things, whatever they had at that time. I don't know what system she was using. But video games engage the senses. So now, what about a person who has maybe a physical handicap and cannot physically move one or multiple parts of their body? How will that play in a game now? Can that be used? Can they interact with the VR system that interacts with a robotic component in the real world? So that, for instance, they may need to get a glass of water. They can put the VR glasses on and actually move the robot themselves as though if that was their own human body. Walk the robot in, get the glass of water, and bring it back to their physical self through the VR, watching, as though they were the robot themselves. Sounds like science fiction. Probably can make a good movie. Remember I mentioned it. So, but that's another way that sort of the technologies that came out of video games can be reapplied to the real world. So I mentioned video games and technology development. Robotics are playing a big part. One of our members was mentioning Minecraft, I think, had some kind of component that's either university or school was working on, where the kids would build something on Minecraft, but use some of the programming to engage some sensors and other robotic components that were real. And so they were interfacing Minecraft with robotics. And I haven't seen that system, but it sounded pretty neat to where they can merge the two together and they can do things both in the gaming virtual world and then also the physical world as well. So as we're looking at these things, like what else is next? What can we do? So we'll be coming back in a few minutes from a station break. Stay tuned. Okay, we're back with Eyes of the Universe. It's Michael McCullough, and we were talking about video games and technology development, and I mentioned where we are today is with the virtual reality systems like the Oculus Rift, where you can put on glasses and actually be in the game itself. And so VR has been around for a while, but the technology, when I first saw it probably in the 90s, maybe not early 80s, but late 80s, 90s, sometime the computers weren't fast enough. But today they are, and they can produce impressive results with VR, virtual reality. You know, you can jump on YouTube and check out the Oculus Rift and see people getting scared on a roller coaster game and actually falling out their chairs because they actually think that they're moving. It's engaging their senses that well. So there's a lot that's out there that's going on. If any of you have tried the Oculus Rift, just type in, let me know what experience that you had on it, or call in 1-888-395-7250. We just have a few minutes left on the show, but we still would like to hear from you on what your experience has been, what you would like to see in games, and what you would like to see developed for anyone really, and especially in the educational area. That and education meaning not just learning facts and figures, but what can you create? What can you use to explore? Can you explore the moon through a game? Can you explore underwater in the ocean through something like that? So what are your thoughts out there? So I'd like to always challenge the audience to kind of keep people to start thinking creatively and thinking about what's out there besides what I'm doing every day. What can I do? Something that's different, something I'm using all the time, like a game or social media. How can I interface the two? Games on your cell phone are pretty popular too. Sometimes not as sophisticated as the consoles, the PC games, but they're still fun. People love to play them, just the different puzzles. Candy Crush, my wife played Candy Crush continuously for a while, and she had to wean herself off of it because it was so much. But simple puzzle games like that have entertained people just to give them something to do while they're waiting for the bus or waiting in line. Play a little Candy Crush, play some Tetris, play something that's simple just to get your mind off of things. But while you're doing that, what kind of game could you make? Things are becoming easier to do, to develop. I'm messing with right now professional game development software called CryEngine. And I think there's a few other ones like Unity. I'm trying to think of some more, but the CryEngine has developed a number of really popular games. But and someone said I don't consider mobile games for real gamers. Yeah, there's a level of gaming. The real gamers, like myself, I consider myself a real gamer. I'm on PC games and console. I do both. And I like computer games because the more powerful computer you have, the better you get them graphics. But consoles, most people are on consoles. But the cell phone games, those are fun. It's just they're time wasters per se. You get on there and just play just to pass the time away while you're sitting there, somewhere out in the, between classes or something on lunch. But games I like Team Fortress. I've been playing a lot of old games lately. I used to play Gears of War a lot. I used to play a little bit of Call of Duty. I haven't played a whole lot of Call of Duty. But action games like that. I like space games. And then somebody's asking any mode. What is that? Probably not, because I don't know what that is, unless it's an abbreviation for them. But simulations, flight simulators, I like those. Those tend to be more for realism, so it's not considered you can call it a game. It's born for realism though, for to train. But simulations are still fun though. I love like simulations. Um, Massive online games, those are real big, where you can engage a lot of people. Sometimes I like that. Um, no, I'm trying. Um, so, but the massive online games are out there. Those are pretty fun too, and can draw up quite a bit of your time in there. Uh, League of Legends, or someone mentioned League of Legends. So those games where you can just have a lot of different people, you can play a lot of different characters from different movies, from different historical, like um, but Age of Empires, that's a strategy game. So different games like that can take place from different eras in history. And for education wise, that could be an avenue also where history was boring in class, but you can play the game that relates to that part of history. And if you read up on it, you find that some of the battles that you're playing in the game came from real eras. That even though the game is um, you're re-experiencing that in the game, but that battle probably took place in real life, and so you'll learn aspects of what that was about. So history can be learned through some games if you make it fun enough. Uh, you can you can actually learn some things from it or develop it in a way that people can learn, and also not just for memory's sake, but learn for the future. If you play a lot of strategy games, you'll notice that there is an economy that happens, whether you're fighting or whether it's just for uh, to build a bigger city like Sim City, you know, or it's a fighting game like Age of Empires, StarCraft, where you have to build up an economy. You're collecting resources. You have to build workers. You have to build a farm, a factory, or something to elevate your personal society to do battle against an enemy out there. Well, you can take some of those parts where a lot of those things came from real based concepts, and they brought them in the games. But as a player, as a user, you can take those and apply it in real life. Just for instance, starting off in those strategy games, you start off with like a couple of little workers, maybe one or so, depending on what level you're at, and you have to build up to having the mega ship or the super army or something. Well, the reality is, you're starting like a business. You don't begin off with. Most of us don't start off with a mega factory producing 6 billion widgets, and that's how you started. You know, most of us have to start off in our garage, on our kitchen table, making one widget, making one concept or idea, or giving a speech or a song, creating a song or something. Starting off with one, that's the same as a strategy game. You'll learn this build order to where there's a certain order that has to take place. You do this, you grow to a certain point, and then now you get the next phase. So now you get the lumber mill per se. And now instead of just collecting wood from the little worker, you got a lumber mill that refines the wood. So now you can make certain spears of the game. So in real life, it's the same thing. You working on your little widget in your garage, in your house, and now you sell a few of them. Now you can buy yourself some kind of machine, whether it's a sewing machine or lathe or mill. Now you can get that. Now you can make refined products. And then once you make the refined products, you might make some couple tools for yourself and build up to making assembly. Make a little assembly line, or get your friends to start helping you. So there's a build order. Same in the game. So you have to be able to, while you're playing games, or if you notice your kids are playing games, have them start to think about the concepts behind it. Don't make it boring. Just relate to that. Hey, that concept that you have that's playing, you can apply that to this and do it in this however way. Just like I told you about the build order in the strategy games. Certain things in that. Um, the action games. Get out there and run. Get out there and play football, basketball. If you're playing NBA live all the time, or you're playing, one of the sports games all the time, well, get out there and try some of the moves. Some of them you probably can't do, but you're out there, out in the field trying things. So play a little bit, and then go outside and try practicing. So you have to engage reality with the virtual reality at certain times. I'm not saying stop playing games. I still play games all the time. But now I'm moving on to development. I'm moving on to integrating that in the technologies that I'm developing. And that's why I want to encourage people to start thinking about is what kind of ideas can you get while you're playing your favorite game. Start thinking of some concepts that you can do because you're playing the game for a reason. If it's similar to me, I was playing to escape. I have a rough day at work. I have a rough day here or there. I'm playing to escape. Well, what about changing my reality? I play the games all the time because they're fun. I didn't go to work for fun. Sometimes I kind of like the work I did, but not all the way. But how can I make this game, which I do like, become fun for reality? The elements. Now I'm not talking about blasting zombies and stuff like that. You can't do that in real life, but that's obvious. But what elements that went into making that game, that went into that are so fun, can I do for good or for to make a living off of? And so when you start thinking about that, what kind of ideas I can get, then start working on that a little bit at a time, just like you're playing the game. Spend a little bit of time at it, and before you know it, you're a professional in that area. 1 to 2 to 5 years of doing it, you're a professional. Now, you may not be a licensed, certified, if that particular field requires a licensed certification. I'm not saying something ridiculous, but I'm saying your experience level, after several years of doing it, just a little bit at a time, will have advanced to now you're pretty much a professional. You've made a profession at that without even really sweating too hard as far as I got to do this and study this and da 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 da. You're making it mentally difficult for yourself. You still got to study, but you can have fun with it and then do it over time. So where it's enjoyable. And now what you do for a living is what you do for fun. That's incredible. A lot of games are based on that. Create this or that. Sim City, that's civil engineering. That's urban development. People have jobs doing that. And you can go home and play that same thing and see your city growing or going down, or people riding, because depending on the game, the level of the game, the little accidents or something if you built the streets wrong. But that's civil engineering also. That's urban development and other areas, other professions that have similar aspects to building a city that you can see. But they made a game out of it. And you can take principles of the game. Now, you'll still have to learn the professional aspect of it, but it's similar. There's similarities. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the game. The game wouldn't have been as popular if it didn't have an element of reality to it. And so, looking at it, how can I turn this around to make something interesting out of what I love to play? So, I'm going to end it here. I hope you all gained something out of it and making able to look at games a little bit differently. Challenge some of your loved ones that play games maybe a little bit too much, but challenge them in a way to say, how can I inspire them, instead of just saying turn it off. They obviously love it. Now, you may have to turn it off. I'm not saying don't do that, but what I'm saying is, how can you channel that energy into something positive? It's not going to happen overnight. It's a gradual process. They have to see it. They have to look at it differently themselves. How can you challenge somebody to say, hey, you like games, what about developing? What about making something? And there's also things that go into a game: art, music, the graphics, the programming. All of those are different aspects of it. And you can actually join a team just as an artist, graphic artist. If you like to draw also, hey, make some graphics for a game. If you know somebody else that likes to program, get with them. You know someone else that likes to do music, get with them. You all come together. You actually have begun making a game, because games have all those elements all together. That's why I like them so much. They integrate all the talents. That's why I promote it for education, because you can bring in STEM. You have the science, you have the technology, engineering, math, all that goes in there. There's an unbelievable amount of math that goes into a video game. Unbelievable amount that goes into any game. It requires a certain logic, which is mathematical, to make that thing work. So challenge your students in that way and start introducing things. Even if you don't know it yourself, you know something about a game. Believe it or not, you know something about it, because games are require a lot of different talents and skill sets to make a successful game. So find the element that you don't have and bring that in, because you probably don't have the other. Most people don't. There's some people can't make a game by themselves. That's cool. But if you want your students to be interested in your STEM class, introduce games. That's where they're at. But bring somebody in for areas that you don't have. And now you can start a successful program on something that the kids already love doing, that they're already interested in. If you tell them they're going to make a game, they might stick with it just to see that game through, to play it. But if you hand them a textbook and say, read this, and at the end of the semester, we're going to make something, you're probably not going to have a successful program. It's just, you've set it too far out. But you gradually give them a little bit at a time. They're going to start reading on their own because they're interested in it. They didn't. So, anyways, we'll keep talking about this later. But thank you for being on this program, and take care. God bless.